Looking at the things, making sure. Awesome. All right. First of all, sorry for being late for Power Hour, guys. Completely my fault. We were dealing with some technical things, and I apologize. But I promise the wait is worth it. First, shout out to Michael's with us today. What's up, Michael? How's the day?
What's up, brother? How are you?
Everything good? As you guys can see, the cameras are looking a certain type of way, and the reason for that is we get to today have our very good friend Ben Gaines is with us with United Properties. Ben, say hello.
Hey guys, good to be here in Charlotte.
It's good to have you here, bro. The drive from Greensboro isn't too bad, but we know that you're driving all over the state, especially down to that Wilmington, New Hanover area. So glad to be able to grab you for a couple days and come share everything that you know for us in the Charlotte market.
Yeah, I'm grateful to be here and enjoy the big city, man. This is kind of new to me.
This is living the big life.
Yeah, living the big life.
We got to have Ben come into town. He was at our monthly meetup, The Exchange, last night on a real estate panel about ways to utilize brokerage and your license that goes beyond just traditional standard, brokerage activities like mom and pop sellers and first time buyers and that stuff. And Ben, just thanks for even being with us on the panel, man. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was a good time last night. You guys had a great turnout. I'm jealous. I'm gonna have to do something like that in Greensboro. Get you guys down there.
Hey, just let us know. We'll be there.
I think for the real estate daddy, we gotta come out and do that. Hashtag real estate daddy. If you guys are watching, just a reminder, we'll take your questions live. So wherever you happen to be watching us, drop those questions in the chat, and we're happy to take them. The team is watching the questions and happy to jump in and post them for us.
Yeah. And one thing I'll add is if you want to ask any questions to Ben directly, Ben has a lot of expertise in the land space as well as kind of commercial development on the agent side. So if you guys are interested in anything in regards to larger tracts of land or identifying commercial buyers, Ben would be a great person to talk to about this as well.
So maybe it's really common for us to jump in and talk about what's gone on in our business this week, so we can still do that. But Ben, maybe you can just tell us a little bit about what United Properties is.
Yeah, so United Properties was founded August 2020. So we just celebrated 3 years in business. We're a full service real estate firm, similar to some of the larger brokerages in the nation. They're kind of doing the same thing, but we go out and we offer to list a home for a client, but we also give them a cash offer option. We truly give guys their real value of their home. We encourage folks to list their home, but that's not always the pain point. Folks have different motivations. So that cash offer option comes in handy. Since then, we've expanded to doing some commercial deals and recently opened a land buying business. So that's been exciting. Right now we have 6 agents that work for us, and we're located in Greensboro, North Carolina.
What's the general direction of Greensboro just as a market in general over the next 2 or 3 years?
Yeah, we're experiencing some real growth. I mean, we've got a Toyota plant that is just this Toyota battery plant. They're going to be manufacturing a large part of the batteries for the new electric cars. That is in production right now. They're in construction right now. It's located on about 1,200 acres right outside of Greensboro. And I think the plan is to open the plant in 2025. We've also seen Boom Supersonic move into the area, as well as a microchip plant. So we're seeing some real growth in Greensboro. I think it's one of the fastest growing markets in North Carolina.
So I would definitely agree. A lot of big business coming there, but let's pull back a little bit. Still talking about small business. You kind of glossed over it super quickly that you started in August of 2020. But for the people who maybe don't know you quite as well, you had no real estate background at that point. You were you decided to get your license in 2020 and you just took off running. So maybe just for people in the room who are watching who are starting off or maybe deciding what avenue to take in the real estate space, maybe just talk about your growth over the 4 years and how you've held yourself in check, but at the same time continue to push the envelope.
Yeah, I mean, I love this story. So absolutely no real estate knowledge. Late 2018, I was on a drive, and I've always been big about listening to motivational content. But I'd kind of gotten bored with what I was listening to, so just went on YouTube and Googled inspirational books or inspirational videos, and what came up was Rich Dad Poor Dad. I didn't know what the book was about. I didn't even know it was about real estate. But I started listening to that book on the long drive, and I finished that book, and something in my mind clicked and said, "Wow, it's amazing to want an asset, and then instead of going out and getting a loan to buy, and I think he used a Porsche as an example. Instead of getting a loan to go buy that car, you can determine." You can determine what it takes to come up with that money to pay cash for that asset. And so it clicked with me, and I thought, wow, this guy's making all this money in real estate. Maybe it's something that I might want to consider. And so at that point, I believe my next step was a Gary Keller book, $1 Million Real Estate Agent. So, I followed with that book and followed with, I don't know, man, 50 or 60 books over the next year. Along with, constant podcasts. One thing I believe is, I almost feel guilty if I'm in the car and I'm not learning something. And I do a lot of driving. So we spend, hours in the car, and I'm always listening to some kind of podcast or some kind of content. And that just spurred something in me to start, to start my investment journey. Is kind of how it went. And after that kind of started and went and got my real estate license, we found a deal. I came up with this idea that owning a real estate firm would be a great way to find deals. And so we started United Properties there in August of 2020. I think my first real estate deal was under contract during that time in April of 2020. So it was some quick growth there.
Kind of jealous, to be honest. I mean, you and I have done a decent job of growing this business as well. But, one of the things I maybe rest on a little bit is we're definitely benefiting from the extreme attraction to the Charlotte Metro.
Yeah.
Right. So there's so much activity in Charlotte that it almost feels a little bit easier to succeed. And easy is a relative term, but for Ben to do it in Greensboro before it was the hustling, bustling growth city that it is today, I'm proud of you, bro. It's fucking cool.
Right time, right place.
Yeah.
That's
really cool.
And then just keeping the foot on the gas,
I think everyone has that same story, though. It's like, I stumbled upon Rich Dad Poor Dad. I've never knew anything about real estate. And then after that, that's the only thing I ever wanted to do.
It's so cliche. It's funny. I mean, you listen to about 3/4 of the podcast I listen to. These guys have that very similar story that they, listen to Rich Dad Poor Dad and it inspired them. Even my coach, Greg Dickerson, he was inspired by that book as well. But I think we all have things that happen in our journeys that, are fortuitous. I mean, we sometime, in my early investment journey, someone recommended that one of the salespeople from CBS, the broadcasting station, call me that I might be interested in advertising on television. And so I get this random call. I don't even know that I'd sold my first flip at that point. I mean, we absolutely had no money. I get this random call, I think you'd be great on TV. I think you should probably do some TV advertising. And so, just one of those things out of the blue. And I have no idea who gave her my contact info or if she was calling a list and why in the world I appeared on that list. But these opportunities, they present themselves. And so, you just have to take advantage of every opportunity. You never know where it's going to lead you.
It's interesting because when we've gotten those calls, they tell me I've got a face for radio. So, you got the opposite. When, with the pretty face and all, I don't blame it.
Can't see my shoes.
That's true. Last night on the panel, I was making a joke about how, you got to have shoe swag to be in the game.
Right.
Like that seems like an absolute requirement.
I got on some different ones today. They're still.
Yeah, I don't think we can get those in the stream, but
it's okay. We've got my clown shoes over here, so we're good.
I was on a podcast last week or the week before, and I was talking about the Rich Dad Poor Dad book and had kind of like a little epiphany while I was talking about it. But in my experience when I was growing up, we didn't talk a lot about financial wealth and those types of tools very much. And I guess I didn't realize before reading the book that there were those who had other experiences growing up. Like, I frankly didn't realize that a lot of the mindset that we had about wealth was real kind of poor dad mindset about wealth growing up. And so then that put me on the journey that, similar to you, that was like, okay, now I got to go find some other advice, and I've got to find someone who has some different points of view. And that's really what that book opened my eyes about.
It's also like they don't teach finance in school. They don't teach personal finance in school very much. So you're siloed. Like growing up, the only true financial experience that you've been in is how your family lives. And unless, the family themselves is very transparent about their financial strengths and struggles and how they're going to do that to survive, it feels like a lot of people kind of just go in blind. It's not that we don't want to know. It's that if we aren't fortunate enough to grow up in a family that's already figured this out, we are inherently put well behind the 8 ball just because of the lack of education around it early on, which sucks. But that's kind of why we do this stuff on YouTube, on Instagram, all that stuff. So for the young folks out there as well who are, sleeping through social studies, come watch us instead.
That's right. Yeah. So we've had a busy week. Let's talk about that for a minute. What does this week look like for us? What did a lot of moving pieces. So what were the high points of that?
Let's try and remember them all. Okay. So we finally closed on a wholesale deal that we were selling. That was almost 2 months in the making, maybe even 3, just because of the title issues, as well as some probate issues. I actually just got flashed that it was 5 months, not 3 months. So that's super exciting to finally get that one off the books. We also moved a JV deal for one of our partners who comes to office hours. He was able to utilize QCTC to get the transaction done, and we were able to help him find a buyer. So like that was cool because we were able to stay involved in the whole ecosystem to help move the deal along. We also contracted a property. Technically it happened last Friday, but after Power Hour. So we got one in Kannapolis last week. And then we are about to get one in Charlotte today. And the cool thing about that property is it is an assignment of interest of bid. So I didn't even know you could do this. This is new world to me today. But what happened is a buyer was the winning upset bid at the courthouse. So, he has X amount of dollars in deposit at the courthouse, and he realized he just took on too many projects. So rather than closing on it and then trying to sell it, you're actually able to assign the rights to the upset bid with a notarized assignment of upset bid that the courthouse provides. So you and I have to go on Monday to the courthouse to get that notarized and basically pay him to take over his deposit.
Right.
So this is cool because it's something we haven't done before. And it's also a great opportunity to get another large home in Charlotte. This one's like 2,600 square feet. So like you said, a lot of moving pieces. We've got a couple properties closing next week that we're trying to gather funding for. So, before we walked in today, Ben literally says, "Do you guys ever work? Like you guys are just out all the time." And what I think is cool is you and I are very much ground and pound, head down until about 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah.
And then at that point, we're able to kind of relinquish a little bit because we know no attorneys want to be doing anything close to 5 o'clock. So why push them when we can take that benefit too?
Yeah.
What did I miss? I know I missed something.
So we were also, we got appraisals done on 2 properties.
That's right.
Ironically, that was an interesting situation because the lender picks and pays the appraiser, but then the appraiser gives us a call and is like, "Hey, I need to go out to this property." And so we'd been pushing the lender to try and put some pressure on the appraiser to get it done quickly, not for price, but quickly. And the lender didn't seem very willing to do that. So as soon as the appraiser calls us, we're like, "Hey, I know you got us," like one of them was scheduled for next Tuesday. "I know you have a schedule for next Tuesday. Any chance you can come earlier and they both were able to accommodate. One came yesterday and one is today. I'm looking at the team. I think it's today. And it's all just about asking and setting expectations about what we're trying to have accomplished. So that was really cool. Which reminds me, we're also currently looking for a surveyor, and it's kind of a similar experience there where it's like, we called one.
What was our quote today?
Yeah. We called one surveyor this morning. They said, one said they're 4 months out and the other said, we're not taking any new bids. And then, we said, well, for any amount of money, I'm sure there's some amount of money you guys could prioritize us. So it's always a question in this trade-off of, are we asking the right questions? Are we expressing the urgency in the business? And this is actually a week, in spite of everything else that we had going on, that I kind of feel like we did a pretty good job around that.
Yeah. I mean, we have the running joke in our office that if it's a great Monday, it's usually a terrible Friday. And if it's a terrible Monday, it's a great Friday. We're only at roughly 1 o'clock so far, but we've had a pretty good Monday, especially with everything that happened towards the end of last week, but we've had a good Friday too. So we've had a pretty steady, a little bit less volatile week of just getting stuff done.
Oh, last thing, your on-market property went under contract too. So the Dispo team not only...
I was like, which one is that?
Which one is that?
So not only did Mooresville.
Not only did the JV go under contract, but we had a property in Mooresville. That was a whole complicated buy for us, but we already own it. And then we were putting it on market to quickly dispo it. And it went under contract this week as well. Shout out to Collective Realty and our listing team and Barrett, our dispo team, for making sure that all got moved.
Couldn't have said it better. Yeah, we've had a lot of stuff going on, and the ability to have amazing people on our team to help take some of that burden away from you and I so we can work on some other things is the reason we're able to grow. So Barrett, Andrea, everyone else who's helped us this week, thank you so much for making our life just a little bit easier to help everybody else. Ben, I'm not trying to call out you specifically, but you told me that you got a little bit of good news on this dome house that you've been trying to sell. And I know it's been a struggle to kind of get it moved, although it's a great deal at a good price and you're able to make some money on it. But I just want to touch briefly on what are some things that you'll do to help a project that maybe isn't moving as quickly as you'd like? Like, what are some things from the listing or the agent side that you can do, or better yet, your senior VP, COO, badass lady, Tiff? What are some things you can do to maybe help move a project that looks perfect but just isn't getting sold?
Yeah, I love that question and the principle behind it. So, I have to take care of the things that I can control. And so something I asked myself about this property was this dome house on 4.5 acres in Reidsville, North Carolina, about 20 minutes